Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery podcast are proud to bring you Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast. Join your hosts, Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, as they address the real issues in health and wellness for first responders, from physical and mental health to relationships and work-life balance. We leave no stone unturned. Answering the Call, the First Responder podcast is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your friends in recovery answering the call.
Hey everybody, welcome Friends in Recovery answering the call. I am Mike Miles, the Podfather.
And I am, I guess, the infamous Jersey Ed from what I was just told. So, and also, you want to introduce our main guy?
Who's our main guy?
I don't know, some guy over there, bald, some fucking bald guy sitting behind there.
It's Sweets.
It's Sweets. Good
Sweets.
Lord.
Yeah, it's Sweets.
Why are sweets? Hey, we gotta.
Did we forget what we were doing
let's
here today?
let's get a jar and put $1 in every time he drops the F-bomb, all right?
Yes, a swear jar.
What if
That's
some
we
kids
need.
are listening to this show?
Need a swear jar.
You mean cops and firefighters don't swear?
Yeah. Get your parents' permission before you listen to the
that's
show.
Right. That's right. All
That's
you first responders, ask the parents if you can watch this. So,
So here we are, answering the call. But we've been doing this for a while now. We've getting some good results.
absolutely, everybody's loving this show.
You got some stuff you want to read over there?
I do. But how are you, Mike?
I'm
Haven't
doing
seen
well.
you about a week.
I've been answering the call. I know it's been a week.
It's been a week. You look still the same.
Yeah. Well, you know that's
You
how it
look
goes
good.
sometimes.
Did you lose weight?
Yeah, I've lost a few pounds.
Yeah, and I don't think Sweets has eaten in a week either over there. Are you still fasting?
I had a salad today that would kill you. It was delicious.
It was a good salad.
Antipasta.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Thank you, Stacy and Melissa, for our food today. And I think we have a live audience today.
We do?
Yeah, live audience.
Oh yeah, we do.
Let's hear it, audience. Come on, give us a cheer. Oh, there it is. There it is. Turn that mic up, Sweets.
Two very lovely women, smart, intelligent, not just good looking.
Much more smarter than us.
Just smarter.
Smarter. I studied that word. That's a real word.
Yep.
My 2-year-old son said that, and I believe it.
Smarter.
When he was 2, that was 30 years ago. Good Lord.
Where's the time go?
God. So, well, I guess it's me, huh?
Yep. It's
Jersey
up to you.
Ed. Jersey
Shooting
Ed's
it
supposed
over
to do
you.
something. All
Back
right,
to
good.
you, Ed.
Back to me in the studio. Well, we want to thank Genesis House for this lovely podcast studio, sweet studio. Of course, without them, we couldn't do this, and we really appreciate it. So, thank you, Taylor, and everybody down at Genesis House, and Melissa back there, and Stacy for everything you guys do for us to get these podcasts going. We also just want to let you guys know we are powered by likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. It's really important to follow us on social media and help us get the word out. So please get on there and like it and subscribe. And I can't stress enough how important it is. And also leave us a review, a 5-star review, so that gets this information out even more, gets it pushed up to the top, and people understand who we are and what we do and how we're helping the community out there. And we're always looking for speakers to share their stories and to get the word out, what we're doing. So if you want to get on the podcast and be a guest, just like our next guest is going to be, just please get us on our Facebook page. And I think our Facebook page is, and I don't know if we sorted this out from last show, but it's what is it? Answering the Call, First Responders Podcast. I see our guests laughing. Yeah, we don't even know what the fuck we're doing over here, Rick. All right. Good luck. You're on your own on this show. So, and also I want to thank Mike over at Louisville Fire Department in Louisville, Kentucky, for sending in his patch from last week. Mike is a firefighter over there who I met along my travels in Louisville and Kentucky, and Mike is going to be on the wall. His patch is going to be on the wall of heroes, and you can see that flash through here if you're watching the show. If not, it's a wall of heroes that we have a bunch of department patches that we put up, and if you want to send in your department patch, please just get a hold of one of us on Facebook page, and we'll be able to get that, or email us. So. Real quick, Mike, I want to do our podcast pick of the week for our first responders.
I'm sure you have a good one.
I do. I'm gonna tell you this one. Over a Cup. Now it sounds weird, but it is a first responders podcast. The host is Ali Rothrock. It's a podcast for first responders that talk about mental health, recovery, and resources available for treatment. And to get and to stay healthy. She likes to talk to the first responders about about all that over a cup of fire department coffee. If you're listening, fire department coffee, okay?
Is that the same as fire department coffee?
Coffee, not coffee. You guys are coffee.
I wasn't sure if we're talking the
coffee.
same language.
Yeah. Fire department coffee. I'm trying to get them to maybe do something with us. So I'm going to give them a free shout out today. And we're not drinking their fire department coffee, but we can drink it in this cup one day, guys.
Maybe.
Is that a good pitch? Was that a good pitch, Sweets? Because you're good at doing pitches. Yeah. No? He doesn't look happy over there.
It was fine.
You know what fine means? Fucked up. What is it?
Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional.
That is it.
I got you, man. I got you.
And forgetful.
And forgetful. So there you go. That's it. So everything's good. Everything's okay.
Last show we talked about. We were talking about body cameras for police officers and firefighters and correctional officers and stuff. But you just brought up a point. It just struck a nerve with me. On the podcast pick of the week, she sits and talks to firemen or EMS about the stresses of the job, psychological maladies you can get from the job, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder,
trauma,
which is a DSM-4 diagnosis, and trauma, and what cracks me up, I've taught many academies, over 20 academies over the years, and I was always the old cop that come out and at the end of the 6-month cycle, I would tell them how the job's going to be, the pitfalls of the jobs, the ins and outs.
You're still an old cop.
Yeah, and I'm an old retired cop. But I would talk about the stresses of the job, and a lot of people overlook that a fireman goes to a bad fire and there's deaths, 5-6 deaths happen once in Lowell. It happened more than once in Lowell, but it happened once recently in Lowell, and they just go about their business, and they might think it's not affecting them, and you know what? Maybe it's not, but I don't see how a policeman or a fireman or an EMS or a correctional officer that finds a prisoner hanging, you're affected, whether you want to be affected or not. It's like getting poison ivy. It might not show up right away, but eventually it's going to come out. Yeah. And I just think we're in a place in history now where we're very fortunate to have people like Joe Rizzuti, who's a retired police officer.
Guy. Yeah.
Right? We know Joe. We love Joe.
Yeah.
Joe the hot dog Joe. Yep. And he'll go to every funeral for every fireman, every police officer, and they don't understand. They think he's out there giving away hot dogs, but what he's really doing, he's looking for people that might be suffering from the effects of PTSD. Yeah. And and then there's the therapists are with him, and he sends me so many people, and I just think it's good that we have people looking out for us now. We have these indigent leaders. They're not captains and sergeants and chiefs and deputies. They're just regular patrolmen, regular firefighters, but they're peer helpers, they're peer supports. Yep. CISM is a great organization to get trained in. And I just think it's important to mention that because back in my day when I first come on, something happened, you went out after work, had a few beers, and just went on to your next call,
Yeah, and that's it's not like that.
It's not healthy.
I was with the state troopers of Massachusetts yesterday, two of the guys from their stress unit or their EAU unit, and that's they said the same thing. We get out there, we move some dead bodies around, we talk to a couple of the people on the scene, and then we get back in our car and then we sit in our shit all day. Yep. And that has to affect them somehow, right?
I mean,
it has to. You did the same thing, right?
I did, and there's no coincidence that police and fire and EMS and correctional officers die almost 20 years younger than most professions.
Yep.
And when you're 20 years old, it doesn't sound like much. You say, I'll live to be 60. That's old.
Yeah.
But when you're 60 years old and you're just about ready to retire, you don't want to die.
No.
You want to collect some of those checks,
Yeah.
And
you worked hard for.
but I see these professions, these blue collar EMS professions, going in a better direction. That's the good news about retiring when I did, and seeing the guys like Joe Rizzuti show up, or having people like Rick here on the show, our next guest, and you're going to introduce him. But I was reading his bio. I mean, Christ, this guy's done more than 7 people I know.
Yeah, more than half the departments around here do.
And
no, just kidding, guys.
I just think we're really blessed, to be having the people that we've had on our show. if I had to sit here and just talk to you once a week, I'd probably, it would be difficult. Let's
Yeah,
just say
they'd
that.
find me in a swamp out back, I'm sure.
But some of the guests we've had on, like this, I don't know. Melissa finds these people.
Actually, Rick was brought on by one of our guys down in Florida, one of the guys who work for Genesis House,
Okay.
and he found them, and listen, I can't find all the guests, and
Right.
Melissa does a great job.
Right, she does.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
does.
So, but anyways, you want
It's all
to? Okay.
yours.
Oh God. All right, Rick. Well, welcome to the show. How are you? How are you?
Can't hear.
Uh-oh.
He said he can't hear.
I'm totally messing with you. All right. I can hear everything.
Wow, that was good.
I'm doing well, man.
Good.
How are you
This
guys?
is gonna be a good one,
We're doing
I guess.
well.
I give you a little
Doing-
dead air space.
You got it.
Gotta
It
get
was
that
good.
poker factor going for you.
God, well, welcome to the show. And I was reading
Thank you.
over here. You're a firefighter. You were a firefighter with the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue for over 24 years, and it looks like you accomplished a lot. I mean, I can go and read it and tell them what you did, but then that'd be the end of the show. So why don't you kind of let us know what you've been doing and all that stuff. So
Pardon me for asking, but who's our target audience? I mean, clearly it's first responders or guys in recovery. It's just both of the above are open.
all the above. First responders is really
Okay.
a first responder show, and we do speak about mental health and substance abuse on the show quite frequently. So
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Because I've got last month was my 32nd anniversary of sobriety.
congratulations.
One of those white chip wonders. It's a wonder to me how it all happened. But I was listening to who's your partner there?
Mike, Podfather.
I have
Mike.
33 years sobriety.
The Podfather, yes. Okay, so I was listening to what he had to say and how, when you get to
Junior.
60, you don't want to die. And I laugh because I remember when we would listen to the song, I hope I die before I get old, and that was 30.
Oh God, yeah.
So we're saying, yeah, man, I'm going to go across the finish line on fire, all broken, skidding, and you start to reevaluate things at around 50, 55. It doesn't sound like such a good idea anymore. At 61 now, I got aching parts. I got things I just don't function the way that I used to.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of stuff that got broken in the process got healed. So the alcoholism was one of them.
Yep.
Post-traumatic stress injury was another one. That's my own term. Okay, that's just because it's an injury, much like a knife wound, right? We don't take those lightly
Mm-hmm.
in the fire service or the emergency medical services, because we know that the injury isn't external; it's on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with post-traumatic stress. And so the injury has occurred. The disorder is the side effects, the sleeplessness,
Yep.
the intrusive thoughts, suicide ideation, the emotional swings. And you can go on and on, through the anxieties and depressive states and the way that things happen. But it's funny, not funny, just funny coincidental how it's occurred in my life. 24 years with Palm Beach County, 29 years total in the fire service, and I'm still chugging along. I'll be at a fire conference. Actually, December's my month off. January, everything starts to ramp up. So I'll be in, where am I going to be? I'll be at UNC. And then from UNC, I go to someplace else. Then I go in February, I'm from Orlando. I go from Orlando to Portland, Oregon. And then March, I'm back in Texas again. And so I do fire conferences and travel and teach, but that's on the performance side.
Mm-hmm.
At home in South Florida, Deerfield Beach, Florida. That's where I met Tim
Mhm.
Roberto, who
Yeah.
introduced me to Melissa.
Yeah.
And I work at a competition. Okay,
That's
it's a place
okay.
called Florida House.
That's okay.
And Florida
That's a
House
great
is
place.
near and dear because they got a place. They got a program called Shatterproof,
Mhm.
and in that program, we deal with all uniformed personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what you are. We've had everybody from Treasury, military, law enforcement, corrections, dispatch, nurses, doctors. We've had fire. It goes across the full spectrum. And these are some broken souls.
Mm-hmm.
And there we do, like everybody else, we do the cognitive behavioral therapy. We do biofeedback, neurofeedback. We do this cool thing called mind mapping and neurostimulation.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a very good idea with the sciences. We've been blessed with the sciences with an owner that embraces all this and pays out big bucks to help these guys get better.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just get something right out in the open to begin with, okay? In my 32 years of walking this planet sober, I think that the recovery industry is either one step above or one step below drug dealing, okay? It can get really, really slimy depending on who you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And we are fortunate that I don't have to deal with all that, the insurance, they got all these fancy names, PHP, in residential, and all this other crap, you know, which I don't know, and I don't care. The only thing I care about is when you're in my group, I make you as successful as possible when you
There
leave.
you go.
If you're not as successful as possible when you leave, then I'm failing to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's preparing you to be able to go back and live a sober life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to show up sometimes, but there's some things that we take personal. You know, I take it very personal. If I haven't prepared you for all the aspects of triggers when you go home, the smell of alcohol, a screaming kid, going back on the job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, ask the Podfather. There's some guys that they're not going back, man. They're not going back. They're done.
Well,
it's over.
The firefighter, the first responder community, you know, they don't have the luxury of maybe going into a sober home and finding a new career. When they come into a program like yours and Genesis House's program, First Responders program, 10 times out of 10, they're going back to the same situation, to the same exact, you know, the same exact family, the broken family, and we do have to fix them, like you said, and you know, thank God you're over at Florida House doing what you're doing with them, and you know, helping the fellow brothers out and sisters out to get where they need to be, and you know, thank you so much for doing that. You know, you said competition. We're not in a way we are, but you know what? Our main goal is to help that person get through whatever they're getting through. Doesn't matter if they're doing it at your place or down the street at our place. We're helping them out. That's all that matters. So
I didn't mean specifically you guys.
I know
that I know how this industry is kind of funny, you know, and I really don't care about that. You know, it's like, which department do you work for? Like, I give a shit. What are you doing with your life, man? That's all I care about, you know? How you showing up? I work with a lot of firemen that are pieces of shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of cops out there. That's across the board. I don't care if you're a school teacher or a janitor. You know, some people don't belong in the job,
mm-hmm.
you know? And then there are others that are into the job, you know? And it's the same with sobriety. Those that are here for a spiritual pit stop. And then those that are here because they're all about it. They want to live a different life. They're done. You know?
I like that. I like that term, spiritual pit stop. Kind of elaborate on that a little bit and kind of explain how they get stuck in that, especially the first responders community.
Yeah. So I can equate it to this. Some guys are on the job because they like the T-shirt. The T-shirt's cool. Got a real cool saying, like, I fight what you fear, you know. I snatch lives from the jaws of death. Oh, fuck, please impress me, you know. It is not the outward, it's the inward. And so that's where the riff lies. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's what the sixth step is talking about. You know, separates the men from the boys, you know.
That's where the real work starts, at the sixth step.
Yeah, check. Amen. And so there are guys or girls when they come in, they're intrigued by all the shiny stuff. Everybody's talking the same thing. They get a lot of support. There's a lot of synergism with that. You know, there's a release of the good hormones rather than the bad hormones. So in the first responder community, most of us live in a hypervigilant state, which taps into the sympathetic nervous system. But when you get to sobriety, you start learning about meditation. You start learning about, you know, trying to be peaceful, trying to find solutions for your problems, you know, and things like that to be able to mitigate your life. If you get a sponsor and you start talking to them about how your parents are driving you crazy, or how your wife or your husband or whoever's driving you crazy, they'll turn it right around on you and say, "Oh, tough guy, what about what's your part? What are you doing in this?" So the spiritual pit stop is for those people that come in. They kind of feel good about themselves. You know, they put a little beef back on their body. They're feeling good. And then they go back out and they try it again. And they keep beating their head against the wall. You know, it's a pit stop.
Yep.
It's not.
It's not a surrender.
temporary.
You got to surrender. You can't just come by and check it out and leave. You got to surrender 100%. That's what I mean. All of us in this room right now, we're all in recovery, and I did it. I wasn't the first time around. I had to do it twice, and the first time I didn't surrender. I'm not a first responder, but I didn't surrender, and it made it tough when you don't surrender. And that's that spiritual pit stop you're talking about. Absolutely.
Hey, Rick, it's really good listening to you. I can tell you that you walk the walk. I'm an older guy like yourself, over 60, and I've been around a while. I've been sober a long time like yourself. And I love your approach to what you're saying, because that's exactly what I see. I've worked with cops and firemen, mostly cops, for the last 18 years. I've had my own business, and, I was still a policeman for a while. I retired 4 years ago. But I've sent people away for treatment, and I've had two police officers come back and left the job, and both of them were grateful that they were able to get sober and realize this job just wasn't for them.
Mm-hmm.
After 4 years, one of them realized, you know what, this isn't what. He went back to school, become a nurse, and I'm not knocking him. I'm really happy that he found another vocation.
I'm gonna go close my wife's door. I'll be right back.
Not a problem.
Keep talking. I hear you, bro. I hear you.
Right.
So the same vocation.
Yeah. And he came back and he realized this job wasn't for him. And I just ran into him recently. I was sitting in.
This is live. This is real.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I was sitting in my car in the cemetery smoking a cigar, reading the morning paper. And this gentleman pulled up next to me with an elderly woman next to him. Well, it was this kid, Jason, and he had just bought his mother a new car. And he got out and he introduced me to his mother. And I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And he said, Mike, he went to Genesis House. And the first night there, he was lost. He got off the plane. No one could find him. And, I was really worried about him.
Check the bar?
Well, you know what happened? He had been in a fight before he went away, and he got broken ribs. And as a result of flying, being 30,000 feet in the air, he had a reaction.
He threw a block.
Right. And so he ends up in the hospital. But anyway, he ends up getting recovery. He's been sober a little over 4 years. But more importantly, he found another job. He went to nursing school before he was a cop, and now he's a full-time nurse. But he said, if I had never been a cop, I don't think I would have ever quit drinking, because of all the things that he went through,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't fit.
Yeah.
But it's so good to hear someone like yourself who is like meat and potatoes. There's no bullshit here.
Nope.
I'm going to tell you like it is. Get on board, because you know what? Sometimes you don't even get a second chance. And nowadays, you've seen it, fire departments, police departments, they give these guys and girls a second chance. When I was a young guy, you didn't get a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
You fucked up, you were gone. That was it. See you later.
Yeah.
You know what? Go find another job. And talk about kicking your self-esteem to the curb. Nowadays, I think we can help people without coddling them, without getting them, to keep going back and forth. So I like your no-nonsense approach.
Yeah.
It really raised the hairs on my arms and the back of my neck.
Hey, Rick, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to talk about your wrestling career. You look like, what's his name?
What's his name?
The Hulk with that mustache.
My younger brother.
Yeah, your younger brother. We're going to talk about that when we come back, and we'll be right back, guys.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. The First Responder Recovery Program at Genesis House is led by a doctorate-level therapist with direct professional experience as a first responder himself. Treatment modalities focus on psychiatric care, relapse prevention, stress management, and trauma-informed care for PTSD. Learn why their individualized approach makes a difference for first responders. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Hey, everybody. Friends in Recovery podcast, answering the call. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles.
I am Jersey Ed, and we have Hulk Hogan down in Florida
Hulk
with us.
Hogan.
I can't believe it's Hulk Hogan.
A.K.A. Ric Jorge.
That's right. For the folks that can't see, if you guys are listening on a podcast, he looks like the younger brother of Hulk Hogan. So. Was that a good one? Welcome back. Welcome back. So, so we were just talking.
I like what the Podfather was saying.
Yeah.
I like what he was saying about the hair standing up on his neck and his arms, because it's not on his head. That's for sure.
So none of our heads here.
That's for damn sure.
None of them.
I got some hairy arms. Though.
That's right. And Sweets is one of us too.
I'm also bald. Yes.
Yes. But he's beautiful. But I noticed on your bio that we got. Did you write a book, or did you have something to do with the book? I seen something about the chapters in a book. What was that about? If you don't mind touching a little bit about that.
No, not at all. I've been published in a couple of books, in chapters of a couple of books. Penwell's Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2, and then John Norman's book with Dave. Oh my God! See, this is the Podfather will get it. Every once in a while,
I get it.
Your brain seizes up when you go after 60 and you forget people's names. So he's a very dear friend of mine, which is what's even more embarrassing. I'm published in his book as well. Dave Dodson. Oh my God! I'm so glad I can remember that one. And we co-wrote a book, myself, Bob Carpenter, and Dave Gillespie. Bob Carpenter's retired off Miami-Dade, and Dave Gillespie's still on the job in Peterborough, Canada. And it's called Developing Firefighter Resilience. So it's a performance book. It's about it's about all the software, all the stuff that goes on in that 6 inches of real estate between your ears that's important to support what you're going to have to do on the job. Mm-hmm. The things that were not talked about before, the things that neuroscience has brought to light over the last 10 years. And just it's a plethora of information. Implementing it seems to be the elusive part for most people, but that's okay. And the funny part about all of it, it's all of the stuff that I had to do when I was diagnosed on the job with PTSD to be able to come back as close to whole as I was ever going to get. It's the same stuff. So it transcends from the fire service and performance in any sport into mental health. And that's the book. It is more for performance, and there's a lot of research info. So in the back of every chapter is all the researched information from military psychologist to sports psychologist, researched papers, vetted papers. All the information is legit. I mean, you got 3 rocket scientists writing this book. No, you got 3 firemen, and we wrote it in plain English for firemen to be able to understand, so that they could, and the deal on the book was it had to be big enough to sit on the back of the toilet, and it had to be cheap, because firemen are cheap, so you could fold it up and write in it and the whole 9 yards, so it was a book that was needed, and it's a subject that's near and dear to a lot of people, and it's transferred into, just to kind of segue away from that.
Uh-huh.
I never once started off in my job, in my life, to write a book. Never had aspirations for that. Never had aspirations to travel the country and teach the way that I teach. Mm-hmm. Never had aspirations to accomplish the things that I accomplished. Just so that we are clear, I was a street thug from South Florida. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of bad things. I hurt a lot of people. I was not a nice man in a previous life. And it wasn't until I met that brokenness that I ended up going to a treatment center called, there's that 61-year-old thing. It was down in Miami. And it was probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And when I went to that treatment center, they spoke about things I didn't understand their language. They talked about hope, and joy. I mean, you could see it on people's faces. They talked about faith. What I knew about those 3 things? Those were women's names. I knew nothing about faith, hope, or joy. Mm-hmm. So growing up, the only thing I did want to be since I was a kid was a fireman. And I couldn't pass the entrance exam, which mm-hmm. was the piss test. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't cut my hair, which you tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. My hair used to be sunk down to my lower back, and so I grew up outside of the law and did all this thing. And I didn't come from a bad family. I came from a very good family, very loving family, very supportive family. We're still very, very tight. But I don't know why. I don't know why. So you don't have to, you don't have to have bad things happen to you or good things happen to you. It happens to all of us. The Bible says the rain falls on the just and the unjust equally, and so, stop thinking that you're a victim, right? You pull yourself out, you start believing, and you start doing these things, and doors open. And I mean, the doors that have opened in my life, I don't deserve the things that I got. So if you judge your life based on the works that you do, I don't deserve what I've gotten. I should have got justice, and I didn't. I got mercy, But the doors that opened built my life. I have this incredible life, bro. That is, if I thought about it hard enough, I'd start crying right now. That's how good my life is. I got 6 kids, 3 from my first marriage, 3 I inherited from the second. We got 8.5 grandkids. I live in South Florida. I'm currently up at, we got a little nest up in the hills up in North Georgia. I got a view that'll blow your mind. I got men calling me all the time. So I never once, those accolades that you hear, to me, that there really is nothing. That's just smoke. I just want to be one of the guys. That's it. Yeah. And God opens doors and things have happened and I've been blessed.
Yeah, but you know what, Rick, but we get to teach people now that 30 some years ago, you get to teach you 30 years ago. And hopefully that person is going to do something 30 years from now, teaching people and getting people, fellow firefighter, fellow first responder to be in your shoes one day, So I know we like to underestimate what we do and play down what we do, but all 4 of us in this room, sitting in this room talking, we have a very important job. Each one of us help people in some form of way, and in turn that helps us. It keeps us growing, keeps us healthy, it keeps us wanting to do more. I know I'm not a firefighter, but I understand everything that you said. I mean, I don't get running into the buildings. I don't get Mike shooting at people. Not that he ever shot anybody. I don't know, but I don't understand that. But I do understand one fucking thing, and it's recovery. I understood every fucking word that you said, and that's going to help me today. Yeah. I'm a kid here. I only have 25 years. You guys are still teaching me. And Sweets, I learned from him. He's a baby still, but we have to learn from each other. And anything that these podcasts come across, any podcast I come across that can teach me and I can learn, you're doing your job, Rick, 100% doing your job.
You have an attitude of gratitude, and the old saying, a grateful heart won't drink or drug, to be sober and to have a life and to be back in life, it's just amazing. And when I sit across from somebody that's just starting out or struggling, I try to explain to them it's just one day at a time. I don't want them to think of 10 or 20 or 30 years or 10 months. I just want them to stay in the day. And I have the most success with people that can just live a day at a time. And, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, when I first came around, if someone was trying to tell me that I was going to stay sober one day at a time for so many years and decades, I would have thought they were out of their friggin' mind. Yeah. But, obviously it can be done. I love the old school approach. I'll tell you, this was, we've done a lot of podcasts. I'd say we've done over 100.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, you're really a breath of fresh air. It's so good hearing your,
no nonsense bullshit. This is how you do it. Old school. Yeah. School. Rick, real quick, we only have a couple minutes left here, but, can you just sum up everything you're saying? And also, if these guys are listening, how can they get a hold of you? Through the program or professionally? It sounds like you're doing a lot of stuff professionally too. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, professionally. When you're in recovery, your job never stops.
Yeah.
We were at a family reunion prior to the show, and I got a phone call. I put it on ignore. I text back, "You okay?" The guy writes back, "No." And so I call him on the phone. He's at a fire conference, 11 years sober, going through a divorce, all kinds of other insanity. Drank last night, started acting a fool. Now he can't. He's scared to leave his room. So I know guys in that area. I called them up, asked them if they do a welfare check. They went up and they checked on him. He's in good hands. He flies home. I got a buddy that works at the airport. He's going to meet him there. We'll get him packed up, get home, and the silver support system will surround him when he gets home. That's everybody in recovery's first. That's their job. Yep. That's a first responder's job as well. It's the same thing. It is. You know, most people stumble through life. They don't know what they're doing. Any of us, anybody in sobriety, recovery, whatever you want to call it, can be successful. But until you have a purpose, you will never be fulfilled.
Oof, God, that's so.
You find your purpose. You find your purpose, and you're squared away for the rest of your life.
Purpose in life.
That right, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a pleasure. I'll tell you, you brought some good stuff to this podcast, Rick. Be proud of yourself.
Yeah. You want to help us?
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. We need a host. I'm thinking about getting rid of the Podfather. What do you think? Or they're thinking about getting rid of me, maybe.
You, man. I like you, man. You could be the triple threat, 3 cue balls, you know?
Triple threat.
That's it.
We'll take the show on the road.
That's right. Ric Jorge, thank you very much for coming on to the show. We appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Rick.
So that was good, Mike.
Yeah, very good.
I liked what
Great guest.
Yeah, I liked what you said. No nonsense. And in between the call here, in between the break, I mean, you said this guy is just, there's no bullshit about this guy, and there's not, man. Right. That's a guy who you want sponsoring fucking you to fucking keep yourself in check. And I know this is a first responders program, and where you are talking a lot about recovery today, but there are first responders in recovery, as you can see.
Right. The highest rate of in any profession for substance abuse, alcohol abuse is corrections, police, fire. I mean, there's just there's no mystery to it. I mean, it is what it is. It's not a badge of honor you want to wear, but it is what it is. Highest rate of suicide, correctional officers, police officers.
Yeah,
you know, again, you know, it's not a badge of honor you want to wear, but you don't want to be first in that, but it does happen. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're here for that, Jersey. We're here to help people and help families. And, you know, we got Sweets over here who's not only a producer extraordinaire, but he's a guy that speaks our language. I mean, he's probably smarter than the both of us
put together. Jesus Christ!
Exactly.
I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, and the badge of honor, and Sweets, if you want to chime in on this one, the badge of honor. We didn't wake up one day and say we want to be an addict or alcoholic. We didn't wake up one day and say my career is going to be what it is today. You know, we heard a lot of fucking people, like he said earlier in the show. He heard a lot of people, and we did. All of us did along the way. We heard a lot of people. We broke a lot of hearts. We destroyed a lot of family members, and that's something that you don't want to wear proudly on your. But there's other people out there doing the same thing, and if they can learn from something that we're talking about and not have to keep doing that and to the day they die or to the day their mothers or fathers or husbands or wives die, it's a check in the W column for all of us, you know.
Well, I'll say one thing I did consistently through my whole life, as I've always prayed to my higher power, looking for guidance, looking for help, even through my worst times of addiction. You know, I would ask the God of my understanding for help. And hey, one day the prayers got answered, and I didn't even know, you know, they were being answered.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize that I was, you know, I was really sober, and I was going to stay sober. And after 8 months of going to meetings and just every day, I realized, hey, this is how you do it. You know, I could say no. I never said no in my life. Never.
Yeah.
You know, I'd swear off everything, and the next hour someone would say, hey, you want to do a line? Yeah, all right. You want to have a shot? Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I just swore off it, you know. I'd throw Coke out the window, dump booze down the sink, did it all.
Yeah.
And two hours later, I'd be back in the same street looking for the shit I threw out the window.
Exactly.
Or going to the liquor store waiting for it to open, you know.
Yeah, or get it, Sweets.
On another show on, I believe it's the Friends in Recovery podcast, we did an AA meeting.
Right.
You know, where we walked through what it's like to come to an AA meeting. And, you know, I have to say that I was, you know, going to those meetings and seeing other people, and when I was at my worst, when I was down and out, like Rick was just talking about that guy, I was super grateful that there was somebody that had, you know, had gotten well and was willing to take the time to talk to me.
Somebody willing, right?
Yeah, there was somebody that was willing to spend time with me. Right. You know, somebody that could sit down with me, go, you know what? Let me help you out. And, you know, I learned from that in my recovery. And then now, while I'm well, like Rick was just talking, you know, we owe that to everybody. Everybody that's gotten to the other side of this, we now owe it to them. Yeah. You know, whether you're a first responder, a professional, or just an individual, that in recovery, we owe it to the next person.
Sure we do.
That if you can help, to help. Because, I mean, think of how important that is. As a first responder, police officer or fireman, I mean, I assume that you must see the gratitude in people's eyes when you pull them from a burning building, or when when the police show up, you can see the relief that now they're safe.
Right.
And, as an individual in recovery, I get that same feeling when I step into someone's life and their addiction, and they're like, you know what? Oh, so there is a way out. Oh, you are going to talk to me. Oh, you will help me get there. And you see that same sense of gratitude. It's almost like you're stepping in and responding to their crisis.
That's a great analogy. We were all pulled out of that. I didn't think, just like he said, there was no hope for me. There was zero hope.
Pulled out of the proverbial burning building.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Or that safeness of the police officer. You're right. Once you get into that realm of that person, you're being pulled out or being in the police presence, and things are being taken away from you, and you're safe. That's what recovery is about, man.
Sure.
Those guys, excuse me, those guys coming in and pulling you out and keeping you safe. And that phone call that he had, I remember making those fucking phone calls, man. I remember early recovery, not knowing what to do. The only thing I knew was I had Andy V's phone number, and I knew his phone number at the time because it wasn't speed dial, but I knew to call him, and I knew if I had to get out of a situation, that's how I got out of it. That was my lifesaver, man. He was my first responder, and that's what we need to do for these young kids, or even old guys coming in, and the newbies in the room, that we have to be there for them, And if you're struggling and you don't, and I'm taking this a page from the Podfather, if you're struggling, you don't think there's a way out. There is, man. There is a way out. It's called reaching out and calling and just surrendering. That's how it is, and talking to somebody like one of us on this show.
Yeah, there's been plenty of times I've had people come to my office looking for therapy, and I've sat across with them, and all of a sudden I realize this is someone I want to help. I'm going to take them to a meeting. It's not a client. I'm not going to charge them. And at the end of the session, they say, what do I owe you? What are we doing? I'll say, well, listen, why don't you meet me Sunday night? You're going to follow me to a meeting. And, I don't do that to get a pat in the back. I do that because I know that I'm going to invest in this person, this man or this woman, and I'm going to give it everything I can give right here now. Not making a business deal, because I really believe this is what they need now. They need that more than they need to pay me money or give me a co-payment and then come back next week. No, they need somebody who's going to say, here's my number. You got it. You can call me. I'll see you Sunday night. Sometimes they don't show up. They don't show up. That's it. We're done.
It's on them.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, but Mike,
the next time they come, they're a client.
But you were that guy on the other side reaching out.
That's what
we
I'm
all
saying.
were. We all
right.
were.
And you got to give back, because if you don't give back in this program, I think it was the young gentleman that we spoke to a couple of weeks ago. He said, that you got to give back. You have to give back. 12-step. He was going backwards. If you don't give back in this program, this is a gift. You're not going to keep it. You have to give back. You can't be selfish. You can't hoard recovery. You can't hoard serenity and a way of life that is second to none, which we know, because our lives weren't second to none before we found this program.
Absolutely.
I know mine wasn't.
No. It's a crazy world out there, and listen, I don't know how the normal people live, because it's if I was normal, I wouldn't know where to go to who to talk to. What do you do when you're a normie? I thank God for my disease. Thank God for the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God for the first responders in those rooms that pulled me out of those burning buildings and kept me safe all those years. Thank God for them. And like Mike says, I get on my knees every morning, and just throw it out there, and hopefully it'll click for somebody and keep me sober too. In the meantime, so.
Well, good guest there, Ric Jorge.
Ric Jorge, thank you very much.
Hey,
appreciate it.
Friends in Recovery answering the call, and I guess we'll be signing off here. Ed.
I guess we will. Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe.
That concludes this episode of Answering the Call, the First Responder Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for sponsoring the show and supporting our first responders who are struggling with addiction and mental health. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you are interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com.